GamingBolt presents Ghosts of Tsushima, 10 cool things that you need to know. Sucker Punch's next game will not be Infamous or Sly, the series that made them so popular to begin with, but rather Ghosts of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is an action-adventure game set in Feudal Japan, and when its gameplay was unveiled on Sony's E3 stage, the one thing that stood out more than anything was its gorgeous open world, a lush realization seemingly of the historical setting that it seeks to emulate. The game is expected to launch next year, and there are a ton of things that we don't know about it, but we do know a bit, so let's take a look at 10 cool things that you need to know about Ghosts of Tsushima. The E3 demo was just a side adventure. As one of the main focused-on titles of Sony's E3 2018 showcase, Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima got a lot of attention and a rather spectacular demo that showed off the game in close detail. Following the show, studio producer Brian Fleming dropped a few extra details that flesh out what was seen of the open-world samurai game. Apparently, only a small slice of the vision they have for the world and combat. Fleming placed the game in the year 1274 in Feudal Japan under Mongol invasion, with the story itself being original and not so much based on a historical event, allowing for some fantastical elements. The player is Jin Sakai, a samurai with some nebulous past and tragic history that we'll hear more about when we play. While the demo featured Masako, the Onna Bugeisha, or female samurai, and she does join Jin on his quest out of a mutual desire to protect their homeland, she will be far from the only character joining Jin, with Fleming stating that she is but one of many side characters who will all have their parts to play. He also revealed that the demo was just a side adventure off the game's main path. Choice between stealth and combat. Speaking to GamingBolt during this year's E3, Sucker Punch co-studio head Chris Zimmerman noted that the game will allow players to choose between stealth and combat, ultimately enabling either or both playstyles, so players can choose to play the game their own way. "It's up to you really as a player," Zimmerman said. "It's an open world game, and you can choose your path. The game has to work well for different people with different playstyles. They're looking for different things in the game, and we have to give it to them. There are people that have a pure samurai style, where you walk into the door and say, 'Come at me.' And we have people that want to play pure ghost, where they don't want anyone to see them around. There are things in the game that happen, situations you find yourself in, that really are steering you toward one style or the other," Zimmerman continued. "But you definitely have a different balance from player to player, so it's really up to you. And that's all really good to hear, honestly. Personally, I loved almost everything that was shown about the game, but the combat didn't do much for me from what I saw, so knowing that I can choose to ignore it and rely on stealth instead is encouraging, even though it does sound like there will be certain scenarios in game that'll favor one approach or the other." The map will make you feel epic. The world of Tsushima stands out the most thanks to its striking visuals and art style. Set in 1274 during the Mongol invasion of Japan, the island is the setting of beauty and strife alike. Sucker Punch co-studio head Chris Zimmerman told us about his thoughts about the overall size and scale of Tsushima. Just how big would the open world be? Zimmerman responded, "We can't talk about numbers. You have a set of expectations about how big the world is, and those will be met. This will be more of a sort of inside baseball answer. It's easy to make the game too big. But the real measure of a game world from my point of view isn't how big it is, how many square kilometers it is, but rather how long it takes you to walk across it. When you walk from one end of Tsushima Island to the other, you're gonna feel like it was epic." We're hoping this means that there will be a number of sights and sounds to explore, perhaps different activities and points of interest to scope out. Given how the demonstration at E3 2018 was just a side quest, we definitely are interested in how the rest of the world shakes out. Not just a hack and slash game. Speaking to GamingBolt, Chris Zimmerman, the co-founder and co-studio head for Sucker Punch, mentioned that the combat was designed to be like a brawler, one that would require a lot of different kinds of skills from the players because of how it's structured. He said, "If it were hack and slash, the live demo player wouldn't be nervously practicing before every demo," Zimmerman said. "It's a brawler. It's skill-based in a bunch of different directions. The heart of the game is that in the demo you've seen 3 guys getting into a fight with them and knowing that you're in danger, knowing that you have to be on top of your game fighting those 3 guys. It's really out of the ordinary if you think about it. You have lots of games where fighting 1 guy is hard, but then you have lots of games where fighting 20 guys is hard. But 3 ends up being an interesting number. It gives the game sort of a fresh feel. Depending on how this is executed, for example, will the other 2 guys be passive until you lock onto them, or can you get swarmed by them? What's their level of ability? There actually could end up being a certain kind of rhythm to the game's combat, even in spite of my perceived misgivings at the moment. Samurai-specific features will surprise you. Aside from the main story and side quests, what else does the island of Tsushima hold for erstwhile players? All kinds of stuff, said Chris Zimmerman. While he didn't provide explicit details, it does seem like there will be certain samurai activities that players can undertake. Zimmerman said, I think the way to think about that, because I'm not going to answer it really, is that it's a game about being a samurai, right? The reason is that it's such a powerful fantasy, and I can tell you, okay, you're going to be a samurai, and you immediately start thinking of the things that you want to do. And if you can think of something that you'd want to be able to do as a samurai, I guarantee you we've tried to figure out how to fit it into the game. And as time goes on, we'll be showing more of that stuff, but we've got to keep some secrets, right? You want to be surprised when you play the game. You don't want to know everything. Actual samurai. We already know that the developers of Ghost of Tsushima are quite ambitious when it comes to what they want to achieve with this game, and we've seen some behind-the-scenes footage that showcased just how much work they're putting in to get the historical details right. So how right do they want to get those details? Well, Sucker Punch shared some pictures on their official Twitter account that showed them working with some actual real-life samurai for the game's development. One of them was Masakumo Kiwami, who is the 10th Grandmaster of Tenshin Ryu Hyohu, and the other was assistant instructor Ryusetsu Ide. Tenshin Ryu Hyohu is a martial arts school in Tokyo, in case you're wondering, that was founded in the 17th century, and it teaches the traditional art of the sword, Kenjutsu, the art of drawing the sword, Barojutsu, and also teaches the use of various other weapons, such as the spear and chain sickle. It looks like Masakumo Kiwami was also excited to work with the game's developers, because he shared the following words on his Facebook page, quote, "We were invited for Ghost of Tsushima. It's an exciting encounter of the newest game and traditional techniques." So yeah, that's dedication to authenticity for you. They brought in actual samurai just to get things right. It should be interesting to see how and where it translates in the actual game itself. Being a PlayStation exclusive is good pressure. Sony's first party has come a long way this generation. It's against this backdrop that Sucker Punch is preparing to release Ghost of Tsushima, its Feudal Japan samurai action-adventure game. With its fellow Sony studios and partners having elevated their game and their stature in the last few years, surely Sucker Punch, who until now have been known for good but not remarkable games, feels the pressure to up the ante itself too. Speaking to Games Industry, creative director Nate Fox said that Sucker Punch absolutely feels the pressure, but in a kind of good way. He also said that being able to learn from the collective knowledge of the other studios and Sony Worldwide Studios umbrella informs the development process. We absolutely feel pressure to live up to the standards set by these other Sony PlayStation exclusives, but what a good pressure it is, said Fox. We want to provide players with the same joyful experience that they got from these other great games, and what's better is that these other studios, they talk to us, they give us tips, we learn from each other. We feel more capable than ever because of these studios being more open with their knowledge. Feudal Japan recreation. Japan has a rich culture and history of its own, and unlike with infamous Second Son, it seems like Sucker Punch are trying to remain grounded with Ghost of Tsushima. So how does Sucker Punch, a Western developer, try to stay true to the culture and history of Japan when developing the game? Speaking to Games Industry, creative director Nate Fox also talked about how the development team is trying its hardest to ensure that it can bring a rich setting to life as authentically and accurately as possible. We rely on all these people to let us know where we're going astray, said Fox. Sucker Punch is good at making gameplay, but we're not cultural experts to Kamakura-era Japan. We recognize this, and we're grateful to have help. It's been interesting working on this game because in past titles we've been able to make it up, frankly. For a superhero game set in Seattle, we knew what we were doing, but in this game, we are constantly learning about Japanese culture or the norms of samurai. And it's exciting because it changes the way you work to learning in the same way that players get to learn about these things and in fascinating detail. Things were surprising us all the time, but that's part of the joy of the discovery of making the game. Hopefully, it's something that'll translate into the game as a player, that you'll discover a lot of the beauty of feudal Japan. So it's great to see that they're making so much effort at trying to accurately realize the setting, rather than trying to simply live up to the established image and stereotype for it. Aesthetics and lethal precision. During PlayStation Live coverage during E3 2018, it was revealed that the aesthetic for the title can be summarized as mud, blood, and steel, according to Nate Fox. The visual presentation borrows a very Japanese design concept with the focus on minimalism, though the final game will have a UI, and we didn't see one to give the demo a more cinematic feel. Through the style, Fox hopes that players will get lost within the game's setting. As reported before, the demo showcased a side mission, which Fox suggested that the storyline of said mission was about good people making bad decisions. If you look carefully, you'll see the duel between Jin and Misako taking place in the open world, with a Mongol patrol in the background. The game's lethal precision feature is core to the game, and as Fox describes it, quintessential samurai combat, building the tension of a fight long before the swords ever leave the sheath. The game will allow players to go to any place that they can see. At the E3 Coliseum panel, the developer stated that any place that you can see in the game is a place that you can actually go to. There's one part in the E3 demo where the protagonist is standing on top of a hill, and Nate Fox confirmed that all the places that can be seen can be visited by the player. The developer also stated, quote, "We wanted to make a game that you could see something and it would draw you to it and you would discover it on your own. It is open world for that reason. Furthermore, it looks like the players will also have a lot of freedom in how they approach this adventure, and it should be exciting to see just how much freedom players will have." Nate Fox stated that they will not be telling players to do this and that, and said, quote, "We want this to be your adventure as this wandering samurai." And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.